Inna alladhina qalu rabbuna Allahu summa istaqamu. Verily those who say, our Lord is Allah, our Master is Allah, our benefactor is Allah, our provider is Allah. Now this Rabb, the profound meaning of this word Rabb, must keep it in your mind. Our provider, our sustainer, our protector, our Lord, our owner, our master is Allah. Inna alladhina qalu rabbuna Allah summa istaqamu. This is the most important word now. And then they stick to it. They stood by it. They stood up to it. Or they remained firm on it. To say out that I believe in Allah is easy. But to be equal to your statement, to be firm on this statement, to prove that you really believe in this statement, to prove that you are acting according to this statement, it's not an easy job. Chumi goyam musalmanam bilarzam ke danam mushkilate la ilaha. When I say I am a Muslim, well, I tremble because I know how difficult it is to be a real Muslim. To say La ilaha illallah is very easy. A few words you can utter. No energy, no effort is required. La ilaha illallah. You can say it 1,000 times. But to be equal to it, to be firm on it, to stand by it, it's not an easy job. What it will mean? Now we can have, all those 5 things that we discussed in Surah Al-Taghabun. If you really say your Rabb is Allah, you must not have any complaint against Him, His decision that comes to you. All that comes from Him, take it with serenity, without any complaint. It might be very unpleasant. Razi barazai Rabb, whatever comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it must be beneficial for me in the long run. Although it seems to be unpleasant, harmful to me presently. I've lost something, but nothing can come to me without His permission. And if it is His decision, well, I take it. He's my Lord. I have no complaint. Then the obedience. Wati'ullah wati'ur Rasul. Ma asaba min musibatin illa biiznillah. Wa man yu'min billahi yahdi qalbah. Wallahu bi kulli shay'in alim. Then total obedience. Wati'ullah wati'ur Rasul. If you accept Him as your Lord, as your master, you have to obey. And obey all the commandments. You can't discriminate. You can't say this commandment of Allah is acceptable to me and this is not acceptable to me. If you say, please note my verse, if this is practicable, this is impracticable, what does that mean? You are saying that Allah is not wise. Allah didn't know that the commandment that I am giving will become impracticable at some time. It's a vote of no confidence against the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you say some injunction of Quran and some commandment of Allah is impracticable, what does it mean? As I said, I'm repeating my words. It's a vote of no confidence against the knowledge and wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything that is coming from Him is out of His absolute knowledge and wisdom. So you have to obey everything. You can't say, well, this is acceptable, this is not acceptable. Udkhulu fi silmi kaffa. Then number 3, you should put your trust, all your trust should be in His person. Don't trust any means. There is some misunderstanding about what I said about tawakkul. This thing has reached me that a brother said, well, he is saying, do nothing and have tawakkul on Allah. No, I never said this. Rather, I mentioned in express words, do everything that you can. If you are not doing, if you are leaving any stone unturned, which you could turn, then you are to blame. But having done everything, don't trust your own work. You must understand that the decision will come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If He decrees, if He approves, this thing will happen. If He does not approve, it will not happen. So actually do everything that you can. This is the teaching of Islam. But don't think that because I have these means, I can do this. No. Maybe you have all the means available at your disposal for some work. But even then, nothing will come out unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala approves it. So all these things. And then, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu inna min azwajikum wa awladikum aduwwan lakum fahzarun. Innama amwalukum wa awladukum fitnah. Now all these 5 things. And fattaqullaha mastata'tum wasma'u wa ati'u wa anfiqu khairan li anfusikum. Add to it these 3 commandments. Now see, if somebody has, qualified to be a mu'min, when he says, Rabbuna Allah, and he is up to this point, then actually then he has attained that level which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls wilaya. Ala inna awliya Allah la khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun. This is the level of ihsan. How should we translate the word ihsan? It's quite difficult. The highest level, iman and ihsan. First of all, Islam, then iman, then ihsan. But we understand from the word ihsan only to do something good to anybody else. No. Ihsan actually is the level of beautiful relationship between you and your Rabb. If this relationship becomes beautiful, husn. Ihsan is from husn. The relationship between you and your Rabb is beautiful. It is ihsan. That is the level of ihsan. The other term is wilaya. Wali means friend. This wilaya, and this is a mutual friendship, relationship of mutual friendship between the Rabb and the bondsman, between Allah and the mu'min. Allahu waliyul ladina amanu. Allah is the wali of the people who really believe. And Allah awliya, inna awliya Allah la khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun. And the mu'mins actually, they are the walis of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's a mutual friendship. You know, from the relationship of bondmanship, now you are raised to the status of friend. You were to begin with a bondsman to Allah. That's the starting point. But a bondsman of Allah. Maybe a bondsman becomes so dear to the master. He frees him, and then he, just as the Prophet ﷺ himself, what did he do to Zayd ibn Harsa? He was a slave. He freed him and then adopted him as his son. He became, the adopted son of the Prophet ﷺ. And the Arabs, when they used to free their slaves, then the slaves were called Mawla. Mawla in Arabic means, although this word has other meanings also, but the freed slave is also Mawla. Sa'ban radiyallahu ta'ala was another Mawla of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That is, he was a slave of the Prophet and then he freed him. So actually, if somebody becomes a beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, although he's a bondsman, but he becomes beloved, Allah loves him, then Allah raises him to the status of his friend. He becomes a friend with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and a mutual relationship of friendship between Allah and mu'min, it is called wilaya. So actually this is the highest level a mu'min can attain in this world. And it can be, either it can be denoted by the word ihsan. Wallahu yuhibbul muhsinin. So this, this status of ihsan and the status of mutual friendship between Allah and mu'min, this is actually the status which is being discussed over here. Innal ladhina qalu rabbuna Allah summa istaqamu. Those people who say, our Lord is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have accepted him as our Lord, as our master, as our sustainer, as our provider, as our benefactor, as our protector. And then they prove that they can stand to it. They stand to it. They remain firm on it by their practical behavior, by their thinkings, their feelings. Then what happens to them? تَتَنَزَّلُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ. Angels keep descending upon them. And what they say? Allah takhafu. Have no fear. Wala tahzanu. Have no grief. Wa abshiru bil jannah. And rejoice with the glad tidings of paradise, of heaven. Allati kuntum tu'adun. About which you have been promised. This promise of Jannah. Allah made it to you. And because you have proved by your actions, by your behavior, that you really mean when you say Amantu Billah, that you really mean when you say Qalu Rabbul Allah, because you have proved it. So now angels keep on descending upon them and they bring the message, Allah takhafu, have no fear, wala tahzanu, and have no grief either, wa abshiru bil jannah, and rejoice with the glad tidings of Jannah, of paradise, allati kuntum tu'adun, about which promises were made to you. Nahnu awliyaukum fil hayati dunya wa fil akhirah. We are your friends. We are your protectors. In this worldly life, in the life of this world, as well as in the akhirah, in the hereafter. Walakum fiha, and in that hereafter, in that life, there will be for you ma tashtahi anfusukum. Whatever will wish or desire your souls, whatever there are the wishes or desires or lusts in your souls, that will be fulfilled completely. وَلَكُمْ فِيهَا مَا تَدَّعُونَ. And in addition, you will be provided whatever you demand. نُزُلًا مِّن غَفُورٍ رَحِيمٍ. And this will be the first entertainment from Allah, who is Ghafoor, forgiving, and who is Rahim, who is merciful.